Hello, everyone. Welcome to SparrowCast. We have Swetha Harikrishnan with us today. She's the Director, Human Resources at HackerEarth. With close to 15 years of work experience, Swetha has worked in roles which entail employee engagement, leadership training, manpower planning, and forecasting, to name a few. She's here with us today to share her thoughts on the topic, ensuring culture is maintained while having a remote work environment. Welcome to the show, Swetha. We're so happy that you agreed to be a part of this. Super excited.
Jiku, thank you so much for you and the team for actually talking to me and having me on the show. So it's really nice to kind of do this, especially when you're locked inside the house. So thank you.
All right. So without any further ado, let's begin with our session. It's completely over to you, Shweta, right now.
Okay. All right. Cool. So thank you for giving me that topic, and I think it's something which is really close to my heart personally. How to ensure culture is maintained while working in this remote scenario, right? And I'm spending some time thinking through it. So what I want to talk to you and the people about, right, is personally based on the experience that I've had. Personally, what's really worked for me, and I want to call it like a personal mantra, and very simple. It's actually very simple things. I'm not going to use big jargons and things like that. And I'm going to like try and break my thought into three different points out there, and talk to you and the team about, and the guys over there about, right? I think the first and foremost thing that comes to my mind is, culture of a company. I think it's the foremost, and not because HR people are always, talking about culture. I think it's the most favorite topic that all of us in HR loves to talk about. But in reality, again, I'm going to reiterate, and I keep telling that to people, for any company, big or small, if you really need to hold on to your people, that's all what you need. Hold on to your culture, really tight and close, uptight, right? Like that. So I think the first thing is not to really not to Google like the whole word of culture and how to maintain culture. Put it on Google and search and copy paste what the other companies are doing, right? Not to do that, because I've done it at some point in time early on in my career, right? And that's why I'm going to put it out there. I think the trick is every company has a very unique culture, right? So the trick is, first and foremost, sit down with a pen and a notebook, write the word culture down, and then use very simple one words to describe what your culture is, I think, that you really want to preserve out there, right? And once you do that, you kind of think through all the things that you do in the company related to you wanting to preserve and maintain this culture that you have been doing before this whole terrible lockdown period, or period of remote working that fell upon us, right? So the period before then, when you were in the office, what are the different things that you used to do? Write it down, think about it, and then you think about, okay, if you simply just continue to do these things remotely, and you can do anything and everything remotely, take it from me, you just need your mind to kind of retune a little bit. So then you think about, okay, what if I simply did all these things which we used to do in the office and continue to do remotely? So then would it be okay and fine for me to just do these things to continue to preserve my culture, which I don't want to compromise on? If your answer to that is yes, do nothing more. Simply continue to do. Don't stop doing whatever you were doing when you were back physically in the office. See how that works and make changes. Now, if you think, oops, there is something which is missing out there in which you need to do newly just because you're in the remote working culture now, then you think about it and start doing it. Make it relevant, right? You can refer stuff out there and customize it as to what works for your company. But my takeaway from, my input out there is, please make it relevant to your company and your people. The DNA of every company is very different. People are very different, right? And that's the one thing to do. As an example, for example, if you say that fun and humor is is at the core of your company culture, right? And if you used to do these, we've done this, right? In HackerEarth, we used to do this, and we still continue to do. Once in 2 weeks, we used to do these fun Friday things when everyone comes together, right? After going remote, it was a struggle for us. It was a learning period, a learning curve for us personally also, right? Where we realized that, hey, we can continue to do that. Let's going to be a challenge to get the people's engagement, their participation there. But we said over a period of time, once we started doing it, we said, you know what, we need to do something weekly and not just bi-weekly. And we made that change. But these are simple things. You just need to keep in mind what is relevant and do it. Okay. So yeah, this figure out what the culture is. No problem if you've already done it. Good to pause, write it down in it again, and to see, hey, what are those words that you really want to preserve when you talk about culture of a company, right? The next one is again, this is from our personal learning from the time we started remotely working for the past 3 months almost. Is I would say anything and everything that you do, the actions that you do which are touching your people, make it out and loud, right? And I'll come to what exactly I mean from there. Out and loud, and in the same breath, I'm also going to add these words called over communicate. This is something that I picked up from one of my leaders who keeps using it inside the company. And I love it. It's worked brilliantly for us. No harm in over communicating. So what do I mean about this, right? So because we're human beings and out of sight can get out of mind. No, out of mind. Yeah, out of sight can get out of mind. It's a thing, So it's difficult for you to engage and talk to your people, have a conversation with people remotely, especially if you've not been used to a very frequent remote working kind of a culture like we were and like we are. So what I mean by out and loud is, example, if you had your reward and recognition event in the office, right? What typically you would do is you would send an email out to your people, put up posters, when the actual event happens, put in some decor, create some fun around it while holding the event. Today, what we do and what you can do is, because you're all remote, all of us are remote, I think we'll still send that email. Maybe we'll send multiple emails based on what is the messaging that you're trying to drive, based on how you want to get people's attention, based on all of those factors that you've realized. So multiple email communications to multiple levels of people. So you'll have one communication to all your people saying, guys, don't miss the event, add humor. Humor works brilliantly all the time, right? I'm personally a huge fan of humor. Even in the professional world, please, humor works. Simple, gets everyone's attention very simply, right? Add humor to it. You will talk to your leadership team saying, guys, you need to encourage your people to participate, right? So what I'm saying is there are different approaches and different connects that you're plugging in now. If you had just 2 channels to connect with your people, today you might have a 5. I don't know. But with the right intent and messages plugged in there, and not just for the sake of communicating and getting their attention. So that's what I'm saying, out and loud and over communicate in lines of that. We use, like when we do our events today, we use emails. We use memes a lot, fun memes, to talk to our people. And the culture is also like that. We also put in the event, put a note about the event on Slack. We communicate on Slack a lot. So we use different channels to get our people in and create some excitement around it. And it's all video. And we insist that we have not gotten there yet completely, but we're moving the needle, saying you have to get into an approach of using video most of your time. You're going to lose your people if it's just going to be voice and you're looking into a blank screen, right? That's what when I think about out and loud with whatever you're doing and over communicate has worked beautifully for us. And another one being again simple but again extremely important, right? Listen and listen to your people. Okay. And again, in the same breath, I would say have a clear bias towards action in the same line. So what I'm trying to say is, all your different formats that you already had probably in the company, like your employee satisfaction surveys, your manager feedback survey, let all those surveys continue to be happening even during this period. Don't stop all of that, right? Because it's even more important to know, because you're not physically seeing each other. Sometimes as human beings, when you physically see each other, you come and talk to each other, right? That's not happening. So then you need these forums. It needs to continue to go on and happen. And then when people, when people kind of, so you'll hear what people are telling them, right? You're hearing the voices. Then you can make out, hey, if something is an outlier to your culture, you pick on it and then you quickly act on it, you address it. Promptness is very, very important. I can't stress on, even especially during this time, right? Because if people are going to stop talking to you if you don't, if they say that they're talking to you, but they don't see any action coming out of it, right? So, yeah, a bias to action from that point of view is extremely, extremely important. Let all those surveys and formats continue to hear from your people. Your personal connects with people, whether it's about if the CEO has been connecting to the people regularly, let that continue. Don't stop. If your managers have been talking to the people in the weekly huddles or daily huddles or meetings, that should continue. If as HR we've been talking to people regularly in some kind of a format, that should continue. People connect should still continue and not stop just because we've gone remote. So you're hearing people and how they're feeling there. Now, when I say listen, I think what I also mean is in the way you listen, right? When you listen, it should not be restricted just by listening to the words that you're hearing. Especially during this period, it's important that you listen very intuitively to your period. Now, I know and I'm aware of the fact that some of us might be terrible with our intuition skills. Okay, so it might not come naturally to us, and that's okay. So the trick over here is to then ask questions. You mean when you meet your people in a general team meeting, right? Even when through video calls, you know when someone seems a little different, seems a little off. Moods are so much more important to catch on these days, right? When you see that, don't ignore it. Ask if you don't know, if it's just in your mind, or you feel something different about the team or someone there. Ask them, listen, like, is everything okay? You seem a little low, or you seem a little different. What's going on? You want to talk about it. And if they say, no, everything is okay, then no problem, you know? But what I'm saying is listening should not be just through words today in the scenario that we are. Listening has to be intuitively. And if that doesn't work for you, the trick is to just ask questions. But you have to. Every single person needs to kind of do that, and that's very important. So, you know, I think, yeah, coming back to culture, right? It's not a big, it's not really a big elephant in the room, if you ask me. It's just about how even more. And I know this is something which you see a lot of people talk about openly out there, right? But I think it's about giving how the need of the hour is to put more attention to the humane side of people more than the work itself, right? Because work is a byproduct of this human being. So I think what's important is to pay attention to the humane side of people even more, and that's the need of the hour today. Yeah, and culture is eventually formed. I mean, when someone starts a company, the culture is or a couple of founders there, right? Eventually, what stays as the culture is the people. So people and human beings, I think that's where the focus should eventually go on. You know, one of my favorite tips that we do, especially from an HR point of view, right, is whenever we communicate to our people, whether it's through emails or whatever activities we do, we consciously use our values, the words that form our values, because that gets reiterated on people's mind. What stays on your mind gets reflected as actions that you do on the ground, right? So you will see that effect happening slowly over a period of time. But we consciously do that from an HR point of view to put our values, words, in anything and everything that we do, because that does form our culture eventually. So yeah, that's what I had on top of my mind when you put that topic onto me, actually.
All right. Okay. I think that's pretty much simple and straightforward. I don't have any questions on the back of my head to ask. It's very much understandable and articulated. That was truly an amazing session, Swetha. I'm sure that our audience too appreciate the insights and thoughts you just shared with us. So let me summarize the key takeaways from our session today. Recap: what are the words that describe our culture? Second one would be keep your actions out and loud and over communicate. A tip over there: use your values intentionally in your communication with people. And the last one, listen, not just with words, but through your intuition. Have a bias towards action. Once again, thanks for your time and for sharing your thoughts, Swetha. And we shall see you again in the next SparrowCast.
Thank you so much, Jacob, for the opportunity. Thanks for reaching out to me. It was a pleasure.